Are you a small business or entrepreneur who's considered getting into government contracting, but it seems a little bit difficult, maybe not the most easiest or intuitive? Don't worry, I got you covered. Click the link in the description below and download your GovCon Startup Kit. It has all the tools and resources you need to get started in federal government contracting. I'll catch you in your inbox. There is a perception in this bubble that, because you're the owner or you're the CEO, sometimes you don't have to be in the weeds. But to me, unless I understand what's really going on in the process, it doesn't make sense. I can't improve systems. I can't improve workflows. The person that I had on staff at the time ended up no longer being on staff. Like I said, that particular project and submission would have been $3.5 million. And the oversight of missing a requirement that required a subcontractor, I can't say I was happy. Welcome back, Bold Move Besties, to another episode of She Built Success. I'm Claudia. Let's get into it. So today I want to talk about the multi-million-dollar mistake that happened in my company. And yes, I genuinely was hurt. I was upset, and the team shifted because of it. So towards the end of 2023, a solicitation came out. And for those of you that are new to my channel, I am a government contractor. My company does work with the federal and local and state governments in data analytics and data visualization. And we also work with small business and business strategy and getting them into government contracting as well. Now, let's talk about this multi-million-dollar mistake. So last December 2023, there was an opportunity or solicitation that was put out at the state level where the team and I could respond. Now, at the time, I had a proposal person on staff. I had a copywriter, graphics designer, the whole kit and caboodle that you need to put together a proposal. And we read over the proposal. Well, no, I take that back. I did not read over the proposal. My team did. The opportunity, I have a contract sourcer on staff. They go and they look out in different areas, different regions, different databases, different systems for opportunities that would match for the company. This particular opportunity was a match. Thumbs up, everything's green. I gave the flag. And so to say, go ahead, let's pursue this. Typically, when contracts come out, it can be anywhere from a month to respond to a couple weeks to 7 days. It really just depends on, there's no real hard fast, this is what it is. Typically for us as a company, we like to give ourselves, depending on the size of the potential contract, we like to give ourselves at least a week if it's small, so a true 7 days if it's small. If it's larger, we definitely want that runway and that time to be able to look at a contract to be able to respond to an opportunity over the course of a month. So this particular one, we had about a month of time to be able to respond. Now, because it released in December, obviously being the holidays here in the States between Thanksgiving and Christmas, that kind of a thing, it was imperative that we read through the proposal, read through the requirements, read through every piece that we would need to respond to. So for that, I had someone on staff that would read through that solicitation, and then subsequently another person would respond. Our proposal writer would start putting together the response. And our cadence was, if there's anything that is more subject matter expert or SME, as they say in the industry, then, we'd either find somebody to help answer, or if I can answer it, then I would answer it respectively. So this contract was projected to bring in $3.5 million. And while depending on where you are in your business, depending on where you are in working with government, 3.5, and depending on the agency, $3.5 million can be a substantial amount for a singular contract. Now, it could also be a small amount. It just depends on your perspective. But for us, it was a larger amount that we were going after. Excited to go after the opportunity. Excited to be able to just work with this particular agency. And so I can remember I was reading over the proposal writers' responses and kind of comparing that to make sure, okay, yes, we've checked said requirement, we've answered it here, we've referenced this section, and I was reading through it, everything, it was looking good. Our summary looked good. Our response to those requirements looked good. If there were any gaps that we had, we did call those out and provided other alternatives. That's another option. While they may not explicitly say this is what we're looking for, if it seems to be some alignment and synergy, sometimes you have some liberties to put that into the response. And so I'm going over it, and this is, by the time I got to my gate of the review, I'm in the process of, and a gate, I'm sorry, maybe I should clarify what a gate is. When we respond to proposals as a company, we have different phases that the proposal goes through, and that the solicitation goes through in our proposal process. And each gate, there are a group of individuals or an individual that has a responsibility to do certain segments. And as you go through these gates in the process, it allows for a more complete proposal. So by the time it comes back to me, I'm basically the final pair of eyes to be like, yep, thumbs up, we can go ahead and submit it. So back to me reading over the proposal and matching it up with what was in the requirements. And I see in the requirements that there is a need for working with a subcontractor. I was like, all right, bet, great. We can, reach out to a subcontractor. Now, mind you, this is the weekend before the actual proposal is due. We like to give ourselves some cushion when we're responding to different solicitations, but this particular proposal, at least for the bandwidth that I had at the time, I was reviewing it that weekend. So great, we have a requirement for a subcontractor, and I keep reading this requirement for said subcontractor. We had to give the subcontractor at a minimum 7 days, business days, not calendar days, but 7 business days, heads up to say, hey, we'd like to partner with you. And it was a requirement. So sometimes in contracts and solicitations, there are required subcontractors that you have to bring on, and other times it's not a requirement of said solicitation. So in this case, it was a requirement. If you were going to submit, you would need to submit with whomever your subcontractor is and the agreements and all the stuff that goes with it. Well, needless to say, the weekend before we were actually to submit, and I'm reading over the requirements, the scope of work, everything, that subcontracting clause bit us in the butt. The person that I had on staff at the time ended up no longer being on staff. Like I said, that particular project and submission would have been $3.5 million, and the oversight of missing a requirement that required a subcontractor, I can't say I was happy. I was pissed off. I was very frustrated. The opportunity was a good fit. We were definitely in a good position to be a front runner. Should we need to, sometimes they bring back, they narrow down the vendors and they bring back a couple, and then you gave your best and final offer. And in our case, we were in a good position to be able to be in that space, and we couldn't submit, and that really sucked. But I'm saying that because a lot of times, especially in government contracting, and I'll say GovCon sometimes, it's the same thing, but in government contracting, it's painted as, they put the solicitation out and you just respond to it and boom, you win. Like, that's not how it works. Sometimes there are failures. And in our case, it was a $3.5 million failure in oversight and calling out the fact that a subcontractor was needed. So what did I learn from that? I'm going to give you my lessons learned. One, we have now in our operating procedures and in our workflow to call out said all requirements, to call out whether or not there is a subcontracting requirement and any other key personnel that's required in the contract. Now, some of this we've already had in place, but just going through this made it that much more imperative to make sure that we have it in our workflow. So I've said it on other episodes, but we use Airtable across the board as a company. I use it personally as well. But how we've structured our Airtable allows us to not only keep track of where the proposal is in its workflow, but making sure that it does not move to the next phase until a set key identified requirements have been called out. The individual that had that oversight or missed the fact that the contract needed a subcontractor is not with the team anymore. And I'm saying that part because in business, there's business decisions that have to be made that are in alignment with where you're trying to go. And there's not that there wasn't any grace. I did not, okay, let me say this because I feel like this is the other part of it, that sometimes, when a person makes a mistake, some people just fly off the handle. That's not how I run. That's not how I operate. I did have the conversation. I did tell them what the gap was. It just so happened that this particular person was on when we onboard new people, there's a certain amount of time that they have, and we can, within their contract with us, that we can choose whether or not we want to let them go or if they stay on. So this person was in that window still. But that mistake was probably the largest of the bumps that we had. And so for me, no, it wasn't probably, it was. And so the decision was made to let that person go. But I'm saying that because it does happen. I mean, people are not always going to fit. And I know I've talked about how we look for role fit, we look for synergy, we look for how you're going to, work with the team, and we look for how you respond personally in a professional environment. And those are all markers for us. But I mean, we're all human, right? Things happen. So that multi-million-dollar mistake, we now have bridges in place or measures in place to be able to make sure that that does not happen again. But the other thing I'll say on that is the flexibility and fluidity of what is government contract or even responding to proposals. Making sure that you read through the entire document and understanding what is in it and what is required. Now, because I have a team behind me, there's some ownership on them to be able to make sure that they do their part for what their roles are within the company. But at the same time, there is ownership on myself as well to make sure that I do my part. And those lines of where I come in and where the team picks up or the team starts have more clearly been defined. I think that sometimes we get into this bubble. I say we, let me not say we. I keep using this corporate we, but there is a perception in this bubble that, because you're the owner or you're the CEO, sometimes you don't have to be in the weeds. But to me, unless I understand what's really going on in the process, it doesn't make sense. I can't improve systems. I can't improve workflows. And so there was a time where it was literally just me doing the entire responding to a proposal. We're at a point now where I now have a team that does it. But I'm just saying being able to grow with that and understand and take ownership for the pieces that may be missed or that did well for that matter. The other thing I said we did implement with that is a lessons learned, but not just one. So typically people do lessons learned like after a proposal is submitted. Companies do lessons learned after they submit their proposal. For us, we do it after we submit the proposal. We do it after the award happens if we don't win that award. And then there's also an opportunity to do what's called a debrief. And so we have 3 different points in the process that we're doing lessons learned for that particular solicitation. So it's done multiple times for us, but it helps us to not only understand where we're trying to go and what that looks like, but it helps us understand what we can do better. We've even, in doing that, have seen trends in terms of how we're responding and what's coming back from the agency if we don't win that contract. We've also seen what we can do better, and we've seen what we don't need to change. It's working. But government contracting to me is something that, while it's great revenue, it's solid revenue, it's not always predictable. And I guess you could say that with anything, whether you work with small businesses or you're in your own corporate career path, like things are going to be unpredictable. But it's how you respond to and react to the mishaps or the lessons that you're learning in this that really speak to how you move forward. Because what could have happened is, that particular potential contract fell through and I'm like, yep, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I could have just went totally off the rails and just shut it all down. But no, instead it's a long-term game. And I guess I want to emphasize that it is a long-term game. Whether it's not a game, but it is a long-term play. Whether you're looking to do government contracting, whether you're looking to do corporate contracting, like it's long-term. You build the relationships, you develop the rapport. And in doing so, that lends to other doors being open to be able to put yourself in and say, you know what, we're this particular company, we do this. we have this particular offer, and build that relationship, because then when something comes up that might be a fraction or a piece of what you do, then you can go ahead and take that on. And so for us, it's been that we have had doors open because of that. We've had relationships built up over time, not particularly with that contract, but just with other contracts where we may not have won it, but we are still in communication with the decision makers, with the influencers who are able to help us, or who can call on us, and we can help them in any future needs. So I think that even though that $3.5 million loss hurt, I'm not gonna fake, it sucked. We have measures now in place to be able to bridge that gap. And so we have not had another mishap like that before. We have had solicitations that we've had to turn around in less than 7 days. It could be just, the way we work things. Again, Airtable's my jam, y'all. So like we have a whole process where we pull data in, we put it into Airtable. It does some fun stuff. We have a nice little dashboard. We can see our pipeline. Like all of that stuff is part of how our workflow is coming together or comes together. And if you're interested, I'll plug it just because we do have it. We do have a template available. I'll make sure that goes into the description so that you can go ahead and click on and take a look. But it's how we are able to track our pipeline and the deals that are coming and the relationships that we're building and things like that. So it's important that you have that type of system, those type of systems and workflows when you're going after government contracts, because the cycle is extremely long and slow, turtle pace slow. And so, yeah, I mean, I really wanted to share the loss because it sucks, but the reward on the other side has been a tighter system, team members and new team members, frankly, that have stepped up to the plate, stepped up to the occasion, and are able to respond to the various opportunities that come our way, as well as continue to build those relationships. So Bold Move Besties, I have some homework for you, like always. I want you to not only check out the description and that template I was talking about for your pipeline tracker, but I want you to think about what has been a mistake you've made, whether it's in life or in business, that you've learned from, and how did you grow from that? How did you pivot? Let me know in the comments, hit me up in the DMs, I'm all down for that. And I want to continue to have this conversation, because the realness of entrepreneurship, the realness as a small business owner it's not always sunshine, rainbows, unicorns, and that fun stuff. There's some hard truth, and sometimes it's a $3.5 million loss of a hard truth. But nevertheless, keep shining, keep smiling, and Bold Move Besties, I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.